Hi, this is Kelly Robertson, the Encirca Services Agent in Southern Illinois, and today I'd like to talk about the questions I've been getting about how much nitrogen do I have left after all the recent heavy rains. And so we have basically two ways that we can assess nitrogen in the field. The first way is using a model like the Encirca nitrogen model, in which we would input our nitrogen applications with dates and rates, our planting information with hybrids, dates, and populations. And then we're going to use that information in combination with local weather and soil information to model nitrogen uptake and nitrogen levels in the soil. The second method is using a nitrogen test. A lot of people want to test nitrogen in the soil, they only want to test for nitrate, but it's very important that we test for both nitrate and ammonia. So we want to do an available nitrogen test, not just a nitrate test. So a couple of problems that come up when we start testing for nitrogen is that pre-plant anhydrous or even side dress anhydrous or UAN that's side dressed or banded is concentrated in the injection point or the band. And so when we soil test for it, we want to test across the 30-inch row, taking one probe every 3 inches for 30 inches across the row. We want to do this for 5 or 6 sites in the field to come up with a composite sample. For urea or ammonium nitrate or ammonium sulfate that's broadcast with a buggy or a dry box, we can random sample throughout the field, taking 10, 15, 20 probes, or we can do it the same method going across a 30-inch row, one probe every 3 inches. I prefer going across the row as it gives us a more consistent result. So once we determine how we need to sample, we need to also select a sampling depth. It is important to recognize that most nitrogen modeling is done on a 24-inch sample. And that is the best method or best depth to take a sample at. However, in Southern Illinois, where we have clay pan soils, a 12-inch sample may be more appropriate due to the restricted rooting depth. So you need to make a choice, a 12-inch sample or a 24-inch sample, and make sure all of your probes are consistently the same depth. Once we've collected our sample, we need to take that sample back home and as quickly as possible air dry that sample down. The key word here is air dry. We don't want to apply any heat. Spread the sample out on some newspaper or paper, cardboard, turn a fan on it, and dry it down as quickly as possible. This helps eliminate the loss of any volatilization of nitrogen from the sample while it's in transport to the lab. Once it's dried down, we get it to the lab, we'll get our sample results back. One thing to note is our sample results will be in parts per million of nitrate and ammonia. So back to what we talked about earlier, knowing what our sample depth is, we divide our sample depth by 3 and then use that number and multiply it by the total parts per million in the soil sample to determine the amount of nitrogen we have. It's important to note that what the result we get is going to be what nitrogen is in the soil, not necessarily taken up by the plant. So we have to realize that if we put on 200 pounds of N earlier in the season and the soil test is showing only 150 pounds of N in the field, that some of that nitrogen may have been taken up depending upon the growth stage, and some of it may have been lost. If you have any questions about how to test for nitrogen or the Encirca model, please contact your Encirca CSA, your Pioneer field agronomist, or your Pioneer seed dealer for more help. Thank you.